Today I will be sharing how I aged some plain terracotta pots using some paint and some rub-on transfers. Hi, my name is Gwen. If you are new here, welcome to my channel, and if you are returning, thank you so much for continuing to support my channel. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Let's get on with this DIY. So I'm taking a couple of these terracotta pots. They're a little on the larger side, and I'm going to transform them into more of an aged French style pots that you can use indoor or outdoor. But if you're using it outdoors, just make sure that you put a seal to protect the paint and your rub-on transfers from the elements. So first off, I will be using some Waverly Antique Wax, and I mixed it with a little plaster of Paris, as you saw me mixing in the beginning. And I just wanted to experiment by using plaster of Paris just to give it a little more texture and make the stain thicker. So as you see, I just painted on some of this antique Waverly Wax, and using a wet wipe, I just rubbed off most of that highly concentrated areas, just thinning out the wax. So next thing I did was took some of this spackling that came from the Dollar Tree, but you can use any brand that you have on hand. And using my fingers, I just took some and dabbed it on to different areas of this pot, smearing it in sections and also creating more of a thicker textured areas just by splashing them on and not necessarily rubbing them out thin, and keeping them more thicker spots here and there. So essentially I just wanted to create more of a textured finish because later on when I paint over this pot, it's going to appear through the paint that it is textured. So I wanted some areas to be more flatter and other areas to be more raised. So I just continued on until I was happy with that. So while that part dried, I went ahead and moved on to the second pot. So you'll see in this video that I will be switching back and forth between pot number 1 and pot number 2 in between each coating of what it is that I'm doing. So again, taking some Waverly Wax, I went ahead and just brushed some on just in its natural form and then rubbed off the excess using a wet wipe. And again, I'm just trying to make this darker and appear more aged and rustic and giving it of an older appearance. Just make sure that when you're doing this, you also include the inner rim, at least the top portion where it will be visible. Continuing on with the process, I watered down some white chalk paint, making sort of a whitewash finish. You want your consistency to be more on the runny side. Here I'm sort of experimenting with the thickness to see if it was thin enough to make this run, but as you can see, it was a little thick, and it wasn't necessarily running down the pot. It was sort of just stuck in one position. So if you are looking for a runny texture or finish like me, you'll want to add more water, less paint, or really dilute the paint that you're using and give it a good stir. So I'm just taking a paintbrush and just brushing them on in different areas and allowing the paint to sort of drip down. I wanted to give it a messy look, but I wanted it to be more of a controlled messy look, if that makes any sense. So as you will see, I will just sort of paint on that whitewash and allow the paint to sort of run. And then taking a paper towel, I just smeared the whitewash, just giving more of like I said, like a whitewash look. And I didn't want this to be a dark white where the paint was on thick. I wanted it to be runny and where you can still see the terracotta color coming through. So I just sort of kept playing with that, just dabbing off, adding more as needed and dabbing off until you get the right look that you're looking for. So next I just took more of that antique Waverly Wax, and I wanted to darken up different parts of this pot and just sort of age different areas like the rim part and as well as the bottom base part of the pot, just in areas that it would naturally age first or tend to get dirty first. So of course, the rim of the pot is probably the part that would get dirty, and also the bottom portion, since it would be touching like the floor or soil or something if you were to put this outside. So I went back and forth between the whitewash and then adding that antique wax. And this is something that you have to sort of fiddle with for a bit until you are content with how it looks. It's one of those things that you just have to keep playing with in order to get the appearance that you're looking for. There's really no rhyme or reason to this step right here. I just kept adding more wax in areas, mostly concentrating in the bottom portion and then the top rim area. And then I did add them throughout the rest of the pot, just in different sections. I didn't want this to have an overpowering, darkness about it. I just wanted more of that lightness to come through with areas of darkness. So you'll want to take that paper towel and just sort of pounce over the antique wax so that you're not rubbing it off completely. And it's allowing that wax to spread about while still leaving that color on your pot. And I was really beginning to like the shape that this was taking. It was really coming together the way that I envisioned it. And I'm including the bottom. This is optional. No one will see that bottom, but I do like a finished look. And I want everything to be cohesive, so I just went ahead and added a little bit at the bottom as well. While that was drying, we moved back onto the first pot, and here you can see that the spackle has dried. So I'm taking some white chalk paint and my chip brush. I'm going to go ahead and give this sort of a dry brush. You don't need to saturate your paint super thickly or anything like that. You can just, brush your paint over it with a light hand, allowing more of that texture and the terracotta to come through. And then when that part was dry, you can see all the little areas that are textured, and I was really loving that look. I also sanded this piece down off camera, just taking a sanding block, and you can see in different areas where I distressed it using the sanding sponge. Next, I made a antique wax wash. Just as I did with the white chalk paint, I did the same thing by watering down the antique wax and just giving this a brush and like this, and it's very liquidy, very runny consistency. And I just wanted like a tint of that darkness. And then you're going to wipe off any of the excess, any of the liquid that's running down. Essentially, you'll want to have just like that dark brown to come through, but in more of a transparent sort of way, if that makes any sense. Basically, you still want to see the white come through, but you'll just want to sort of dull down that white color. We don't want it to look new. We don't want this to look like bright white. This is the reason for that antique wax. So moving back to the pot number 2, now that the paint and the wax is dried, we're going to add a transfer. This transfer came from the IOD booklet from the Transfer Pots collection. And I just took this design here. I thought it was very fitting for this pot. And you're going to use the stick that comes with this and burnish that onto the pot. So I'm just trying to make sure that I have it centered as much as I can without having to measure. And then you'll just want to rub that stick over the transfer and make sure that you're peeling it off very slowly, just to make sure that you have all the transfer rubbed off of the transfer tape or backing completely onto your pot. And again, these pots are meant to look more of a French-inspired aged terracotta pot. So that's the idea behind this whole thing. I, for one, really enjoy that look, and I love the French country look. So hopefully you guys are finding this to be just as beautiful as I am, and hopefully you're enjoying the process. So you want to take that backing and then just rub over the transfer just to give it more of a secure hold to make sure everything is adhered well to your pot. So back to pot number 1, we're taking another transfer from the same transfer pots collection by IOD, and using that burnishing tool, just do the same thing as you did with pot number 1 or pot number 2. In this one, I used some painter's tape. I just wanted it to be sure that it did not move while I was burnishing this design on. You do not have to use tape. You can just hold it down with your fingers. But if you feel like, you need an extra hold or support while you rub the design over, then using some tape will definitely help. And then taking that backing, you just want to rub that over the design, and voila. This is how it's looking so far, and it's looking just as nice as I had envisioned it. I think it looks perfect for my decor, and here are the two side by side. I think they came out super cute. You could use it for live plants like I will be. You can also use it to make a arrangement with faux plants or faux flowers. That would be really pretty as well. But I feel like this would make a very nice indoor or outdoor type of decorative pot, or you can actually use it for a real plant. So that's the nice thing about this DIY. To me, it looks very authentic as far as making it look aged. And this is exactly how I envisioned these to look. I wanted to make two different styles, one with more of like the textured look and the other more of like the whitewashed pot. And here's a close-up. I think they are perfect. You could also sand down the transfers if you wanted to distress it a bit. And let's go ahead and take a final look at these pots. I did style it using some of my houseplants just to give you an idea how it would look. If you enjoyed this video and got some helpful hints for how to age your own French-inspired pots, please leave me a thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know what you thought of this process and if you think that you would try this. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate you and would love to have you as part of my creative family here on YouTube. And as always, to all my subscribers and returning viewers, I so appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in my next one. Take care. Thanks for watching.